Hey guys, today we are going to start 4.7 radical equations. So we have a few I cans. I can isolate the radical, and by isolate I mean get that radical alone. I can eliminate the radical, meaning get rid of like the square root or the cube root. I can solve the remaining polynomial equation, and I can check for extraneous solutions. So remember, we talked about extraneous solutions are the answers that you get that don't work. You guys know that you can hit pause at any time if you need to take a break, need to catch up, and I'm just going to keep going. You guys pause when you need time. So before we get started here, I am going to list out some steps for you. So let me see here. Step 1 is going to be to isolate the radical. And remember, that means get it all by itself. Step 2 is going to be to square or cube or fourth, whatever it is, both sides. Step 3 is going to be to solve the remaining equation. And step 4 is going to be to check your answers. And you always need to check because you may come up with answers that don't work. I'm going to see if I can shrink this a little bit. And we'll get started on this one then. That did not work well at all, Mrs. Vogt. Okay, so we are going to start by solving this one over here. 5 equals the square root of x. And you guys already have the radical isolated. And what I mean by that is that this piece over here, let me get my pen working, the thing that has the square root right here already is by itself. It's not divided by anything, it's not multiplied by anything, it doesn't have plus. So step 1 is pretty much done. Step 2 is going to be to square, cube, fourth, whatever it is, both sides. Since this is square root, we want to square both sides. Okay, so 5 squared is 25. Square and square root undo each other, so all you're left with at this point is x plus 7, and now you get to solve. So let's see, I think you get 18. So this would be your final answer. Okay, so you guys need a little more time. Go ahead and take that, hit pause now. I'm going to move on to the next example. So remember, step 1 was to isolate the radical. And here's an example where we need to do that. This piece out here, this plus 8, is kind of outside of our radical. Sorry, I kind of drew over it. So that is what we need to get rid of, okay? We need to get this radical piece all by itself. So I am going to subtract 8 from both sides. I'm still using yellow. Subtract 8 from both sides before I even get started. So over here I have minus 4 equals the cube root of x plus 2. So step 2 was to square, cube, both sides. So this is a cube root, so what we need to do is to cube both sides. So I'm going to do this step in blue. I'm going to cube both sides. So I believe negative 4 cubed is negative 64. Over here I'm just left with x plus 2. And now we just need to keep solving. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So we get negative 66 equals x. Now, I did not do what my step 4 was on the last problem, and that was to check. So at this point I want you guys to check your answer. Plug it in and see if it works. Hit pause, check it, and then let me know. All right, so I have one last example for you guys. I'm going to just move this over. Step one is to isolate the radical. We don't need to do that because there's nothing on the outside of either of these. So we are going to start just by squaring both sides because this is square root. So I get 6n minus 3 equals 4 plus 7n. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So I have minus 7 equals, and let's see, I'm sorry, 6n minus 7 equals 7n. And then if I subtract 6n from both sides, I have negative 7 equals n. So now the all-important last step is to check. So I've changed my pen to blue now. If I plug this in, I have 6 times negative 7 minus 3 equals the square root of 4 plus 7 times negative 7. And 6 times 7, negative 7 is negative 42, minus 3 is negative 45. And I have 4 plus negative 49, which is also negative 45. So at this point you might be saying to yourself, but Mrs. Vogt, it works, these things are equal, but negative 45 is not a real answer. Okay, it's an imaginary number. So this is the type of one where you're going to say no real answer. There is no real number that I can come up with that will give me an n or a number that will satisfy this equation here. The final answer is no real answer. All right, guys, so thanks for paying attention. Here is your homework, page 254, 4 through 7, 12 through 14, 18, 23, and 24. They are up right here. I'm going to stop the video and I will make a PDF version of the notes for today so that if you want another copy of them, they'll be on the website. This will be on the website as well. And then the last page of the notes is going to be my answer key for the homework so that you guys can check your homework. Make sure you're doing it correctly. Tomorrow we are going to move on, so make sure you feel good about it. Anything else that you do not have done if you finish your homework is what you need to be working on for the rest of the hour.